in church, my pastor was just talking about extraordinary and ordinary. And Sean is good at everything ordinary and extraordinary, but he's also good at the first part as well. Like, he's actually good at coaching, actually good at leading, actually good at making sure that the things that you need to be successful are there for you.
This is the Sean Miller Podcast, presented by Deer Park Roofing. Now, here's your hosts, Paul Fritchner and Adam Baum, with the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of the Sean Miller Podcast. Paul Fritchner alongside Adam Baum and the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller. We are presented by our presenting sponsor, Deer Park Roofing, as well as the official payroll sponsor of the Sean Miller Podcast, Payroll Partners. Today, we are joined by an Arizona legend, Stanley Johnson. Stanley, it's great to have you on the show today. You were the Max Preps National Player of the Year coming out of high school, number 3 rated overall recruit, but you were really one of the best players in your high school class, playing only the 1 year in college at Arizona for Sean back in 2014, 2015, a year that Xavier fans, especially in the March Madness NCAA tournament season, part of the season, they remember that team very well. But Stanley, congratulations on all your success, both in college and in the NBA. I mean, you were a prolific player at Arizona in your 1 year there. You won the first ever, the inaugural Julius Erving Award for Small Forward of the Year. You were the 8th winner of the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year for Arizona, 8th player out of the Wildcats program to do that. And you were the only freshman on the 2015 All Pac-12 first team. So, you know, I think all the stats and everything speak for themselves, but we want to welcome you onto the show and thank you for joining us today. How are you doing, Stanley?
Thank you. I'm doing great. I mean, that was a great introduction as well.
Stanley, you're the second Arizona Wildcats. We've been doing this for about a year. Dalen Terry, because we were in Chicago playing DePaul, and he came over, and we actually did it live. So DT, the first guy, and you're the second, so you're in the front of the line as you should be. So listen, there's a lot of topics that I would love to just share with you, kind of get your thoughts on. You know, some may be serious, others we can have a good time with. But I want to start with the very serious one, because when I think of Stanley Johnson and I think of you, whether it was when we recruited you to Arizona, who you were at Mater Dei High School, Team USA, and who you've been since you've left school and gone on to have your own family and in the career that you have, I always think about your mom, you know, and because in so many people that I have recruited over my time, I don't know if there was a person that impacted their son more in terms of loving the game and being about the game of basketball and what it's truly about than your mom impacted you. And for those that remember and those that don't, I would love to just, you know, as you think about growing up and the impact she had on you. Obviously, she passed away after the NBA draft, but I'd love to start with that because I think that's the most important thing.
Well, yeah, rest in peace to her for sure. She was an amazing person. She always kept the main thing. And I think that's what made me the man that I am today for sure, but definitely the player that I am today. She did a great job at being very consistent, being a great communicator to me about what I needed to do, and omnisciently going, you know, for all the way down the line to 10 years down the line to 20 years down the line, you know, all those things that even in her passing, I can look back and use some of those things as a resource to keep myself going today. I would say, like, there was a big emotional and thing that, you know, I would also like to put out there that anybody that goes through something this hard should look at therapy immediately, because it's just a hard thing to deal with when you have somebody this instrumental in your life to deal with anything, because every day you go about something, it's always like a little bit of her walking around. But the things that I learned from her and I can use as a resource back then, I can use now, and I've used throughout my whole career in my life and relationships and everything like that. So basketball will be a small part of who she was to me, what she was in the world, and I think she use it more as a vehicle to get through to me. I was harder listening for sure, but yeah, she was so great to me. So,
you know, and I think one of the most amazing moments for me is, I was I believe in Europe with the Team USA team when the draft happened. You and Rondé got drafted in the same draft. When I was watching it on TV and she was there,
Yeah.
she was able to be a part of that experience because that was just a full circle moment in so many ways, because here would be the next thing. When people think of you, they think of you like you were the best player in the country since you were 12 years old. And me and you both know, like, that's the furthest thing from the truth, right?
Yeah.
Because I believe this, that one of the things that always helped us recruiting you to Arizona, and believe me, when we were recruiting you, completely different time and age and how things are today. But we got in very early, if you remember, and we offered you, I think, between your 9th and 10th grade year. But you were a role player on a state championship team. You were like more of a power forward trying to become a perimeter player. And quite frankly, you weren't given a ton of respect in terms of where you were ranked, even in 10th grade, certainly 9th grade, obviously middle school, et cetera. But it really wasn't, in my opinion, till like the spring of your junior year, summer before your senior year, when a lot of things became like, oh my, this guy
Yeah.
is gone. But can you talk to that a little bit about just where you would have been at 14 or 15 years old? And quite frankly, like how you climbed the rankings and became basically one of the top 5 players in your class.
Yeah, that's probably, why I went to Arizona. It's probably because you were actually there. You actually saw the games. That's why you actually remember what was actually going on, right?
Yep.
So I remember when Sean came to me in my senior year, he brought this book full of sheets. At the point in time, I didn't know what it was. It was every time he had to write.
It was a deck of cards. Yep.
Yes. Every time he had to write, take a flight, had to come to see. It was every time he came to see me, but. Yeah, I obviously went to Mater Dei, which was very challenging. To add to the story, Cade Reinhardt, Xavier Johnson were on that first team of mine. They were D1 players. I was far from it, more close to a football player. I always loved basketball. I didn't really know. I guess I just kept playing. As you said about my mom never let me shy away from any hard competition, any type of way out, any type of, can I curse on this? Any type of, bitching or anything like that, about minutes, playing time, playing style, any of those things, right? So my freshman year, my mom was just like, you better be on the court, you better rebound, you better do everything you can to get the coach's trust so you can play. The way I grew up playing basketball, it's always been about winning. It's never been about first player, second player, this, that, and the third. I can remember points in times in college, high school, where me and Sean were on the phone. He was recruiting me, and I had dropped in the rankings somehow, some way. And Sean, he was still recruiting me. He was very heavy on me, but he was like, "Man, you're better than this guy. Just maybe this is how things work. I really don't know what to tell you." He told me not to worry about it, but that's just how. I was not the best player in the country whatsoever until it just happened at some point in time. And it was a little bit of attrition, but at the same time, it was all worth it, I would say. I guess, I was brought about stresses and different things that I wouldn't have stressed about. I never really stressed. Yeah, I never really stressed. I felt like I just need to get in front of the guys. Like, Emmanuel Moutier, Kelly Oubre, I just need to get in front of the guys and play.
And the other part is like you were putting a ton of work in now. Like
that's the other part. Yeah. So
like your body was changing. You were becoming more athletic. You were becoming more skilled. And the transformation from 15 years old, 9th grade to where you were as a senior in high school was amazing. Maybe as big of a transformation, Stanley, as I have ever seen, for 2 reasons. Based on who you became, but the other thing is who you were too. And that's why I brought up what I brought up, because I think your mom and just your work ethic and your love of the game, ascended you. And I think the other part that I would bring up to you is, look, you combine playing at Mater Dei High School for a great high school coach and program, and you win 4 California state championships. Think about that. He's one of, I don't know if there's ever been a player that's won 4. If there is, there's about 3 or 4 of those types of guys. Maybe a guy like Bill Walton, you could say, could have been one of them. Stanley won 4 California state championships in high school. But you play for Gary McKnight, Coach McKnight, you play at Mater Dei, then you're on the EYBL circuit playing for the Soldiers. And you think about, like, again, young people, Stanley, as they make decisions on what high school and high school program to go to and what travel team to play on in the circuit. I also believe that was part of your development as well, because there were no days off for you. If you went to Mater Dei High School to watch you in the fall, you guys were in the gym working. If you were in the spring and high school season was over, you were traveling with the Soldiers and playing. And I think that combination also brought out the best in you.
I think the funny thing to add on that is that when you get in the NBA, and especially now I'm going to EuroLeague next year, everybody's not going to have the ball. You're not going to have the ball in your hands the whole time. You're not going to be able to play isolation ball the whole time. I think the fact that I did learn how to do those things at a younger age, at a high level, supposedly at that point in time, my mentality, hearing those things or seeing those things throughout my career, I've never been afraid to say, go work or learn this or play this way. It's never bothered me. It's made me almost like very spongy, very, flexible in what I'm accepting, what I'm, able to play. And I would say that's why I'm playing or at least a big part of the reason why I'm still playing at a high level is because I have accepted roles. It's easy for me to accept roles. And all those things kind of work together.
Yeah. So Adam and Paul, it was the fall of Stanley's senior year of high school at Mater Dei. He had the best choices in the world to go to college: Kentucky, Kansas, Oregon, USC, UCLA. If you name a school, if he really wanted to go there, he could have done it. Obviously, as you listen to him talk, we recruited Stanley as far back as spring of his 9th grade year. And we loved him. We had a great relationship with him. So we're kind of coming down the home stretch, and we had this big meeting at Mater Dei High School. And at the time, I knew Coach McKnight. Coach McKnight knew me. Certainly, I really respected him, but he didn't know me as well because I didn't grow up in the West. So I was kind of new to the West. And, Coach McKnight, if you guys don't know him, he's a high school coaching legend. Bob Hurley in the East and Gary McKnight in the West are very similar, right? He has more California state championships than any other coach. Am I right, Stanley?
You're right. I was trying to see where you're going with this.
We're in the boardroom, and my assistant coach, Joe Pasternak, and myself, we brought our Arizona presentation, and Stanley's mom was there, and his dad, and his stepmom, and Coach McKnight. And Coach McKnight, if you can picture it, if this was a table, Coach McKnight would have been off to my left at the head of the table, and everybody else that I named, we were just going back and forth. So I'm going to make a longer story short. We got to the end of the presentation, and I kept looking at Coach McKnight. I could tell something was definitely bothering him because once in a while I'd say, like, Coach, do you have a question? And never had a question, right? So we get to the very, very end, and I might have asked him for like the second time. We were in there for an hour, and I said, well, that's a wrap. That's everything. And, we'll feel good. Looking forward to the visit, Stanley, and blah, blah, blah. And I said, I might not even have said, Coach, do you have a question? He said, I have a question. And I said, oh, boy, because I could tell he was upset. And he said, is Stanley Johnson going to start at Arizona as a freshman? And it was a unique question at the time because in some ways I thought Coach might be setting me up, like throwing me a softball on. He gave me an answer. Maybe he was having a problem with Stanley. That's where it was. And he needed me to say, well, you have to earn it, blah, blah, blah. So I went down the path. Stanley, you probably remember, I said, well, Coach, I think he can start. But, like at Mater Dei, he's going to have to earn it through practice. And we have good players there, blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me, he took both fists, and he hit the table. Boom. He said, Stanley, don't go to Arizona. And he got up and he left. Do you remember?
Yes.
Exactly.
And I was like, whoa.
So I have two things to my mind. First, oh my God, all this work just went down the drain, right? 3 years worth of work. Our top guy, like I've never wanted a player and more than we want Stanley, right? It's like we just lost it all in one moment. And then Stanley was like, Coach, no. And everyone was good. And my assistant coach, Joe Pasternak, we'll talk about him in a minute. He's a smaller guy, but he got up so fast. It was like a dog chasing like a mailman. Like he just ran right down the hall. Anyway, we ended up repairing it. It was miscommunication. I think Coach McKnight thought that we were just saying one thing to a guy like Aaron Gordon a year earlier, and we weren't putting Stanley in the same category. But we got it all figured out. And Coach McKnight and I, Stanley, you know this, we actually became great friends and looked after each other. He became one of my favorite guys. But when that meeting ended, I'm telling you, it would have been a tough bet to think you were coming to Arizona.
Yeah, Gary, especially toward the end, he knew where, obviously I had a chance to be the first guy to be drafted out of his crop. So he was just trying to protect me and make sure I was going to the spot. Obviously he had bad with Taylor King and some guys that played for guys from the East Coast. He had no rapport with them whatsoever, and probably doing stuff like that is why he didn't at the time. But he's always been loved. So it was definitely something to remember. But
that happened. How I described that. I mean, that
exactly
was
how it happened. Yeah.
And Pasternak chased him down the hall. And, but Coach McKnight, because I hope he listens to this podcast, he is one of my favorite people in coaching. And it was amazing that we went from that incident to becoming, good friends. And obviously he was thrilled that you had the career that you had at Arizona and beyond. So I'm going to give you a second Stanley Johnson story, and I need some help with this one. So now he's with us at Arizona, and it's the way I remember it, it would have been like an early February game. We had a great team. You guys know this because, we got to the Elite Eight, lost to Wisconsin, and beat you guys in the Sweet 16, right, Xavier? So we're at Oregon, and when you go into Pac-12, you leave for 4 days. So we're going to Eugene first, and then we stay in between, and then we're going to go to Oregon State, all right? So we're in the hotels up there. Oregon obviously was the better two teams. We're in a battle. Like I'm talking about Oregon, they have a good crowd, but when they play a top flight team, like they have a great crowd. And it was so great that I will tell you, when I walked out for the game, Phil Knight was directly across from our bench. You remember, Stanley?
Yep.
And it was like, this is going to be a difficult game here tonight. Oregon is ready to go. And they were obviously Dana Altman, good team.
Yeah.
So, Stanley, I believe you were dating, or you had a girlfriend or a friend that was on the Oregon women's volleyball team.
Yeah.
Okay. She was from Mater Dei?
She's from Mater Dei, yeah.
Okay. All right. So as it's been told to me, and I'll get clarification on this podcast, you kind of had a dare bet with her that, look, I'm going to wear Oregon green Nike shoes out. Now, keep in mind, we're red, white, and blue. We have the sharp uniforms. I think we were in red that day. I mean, we're sharp. Everybody on our squad has like red sneakers, white sneakers, maybe black, gray. I don't know. But you're not going to wear lime green, right? Because that's Oregon's colors. And by the way, they are wearing lime green, right? So we do our deal. We're warming up. And right before we go in one last time, do the prayer, come out. And now we're a couple minutes from tip off. As we come out, a couple minutes, I look out. I look at Stanley. I'm like, this guy has lime green Nike shoes on. He's basically wearing the same sneakers as the players from Oregon. And Knight is right in front of our bench. And I'm like, I looked at Pasternak. I said,
take him off.
What am I gonna Did I tell you to take him off?
You told me to take him off, but it was already after our last time in the locker room, so I couldn't go back in time.
No, he had it planned out. He didn't have time to go back to the locker room. Like, okay, all right, fine, that's fine. In other words, I looked at him and said, man, you better have one hell of a game.
Yeah, exactly.
But
you're on fire about it, like on fire, like on fire. I mean, this is the one time you wanted to wear. There were some Grinch style KD 6s or 4s or something like that. So it looked like, especially for Sean, he's not even looking. He just didn't want us to wear Jordans or anything like that. So when he saw it, he didn't even like double check. He's like, man, this freshman is not paying attention to what's going on.
But you got to remember, there was a picture here. when I say Phil Knight is right across I could wave at him and say hello. I mean, like, like we got our stuff, they got their stuff. And I'm like, he's wearing their Oregon sneakers. Anyway, we won the game and no harm, no foul. He played great. Boom, boom, boom. We move on. Now, here's the lesson I learned. We then have a day in between and we're getting ready to play at Oregon State. And I think our record that year was maybe 34-3. I think that's what we were.
We were better than that because
we 33 or something like that.
Yeah, we had lost one game maybe. I think we had lost to, I think, I don't ruin your story, X, Y, and Z, and then Arizona State after that.
Yeah.
That was our, Wisconsin was our last loss.
But we let our guard down in the next game, and one of our losses was at Oregon State.
Yeah. That was on me.
Which was kind of,
I played like shit that game. I shit the bed that game. That was for sure.
So I almost
the worst
felt
days of my
like,
life.
as I was on the bus after the Oregon State game, this is the conversation I'm having with myself. See, you got what you deserve. That's what I was saying to myself, because you gave in. You let him wear those green sneakers at Oregon. He relaxed. You need to keep the pressure on him. He's a young, talented guy, and this is what you get, right? So, yeah, but lesson learned. But yeah, that happened. And look, I've told this story one other time, and there's video evidence to support. When you pull that game up, you'll see there he is. He's out there in lime green Oregon sneakers. So yeah, that's him.
That's funny.
The Sean Miller Podcast is proud to partner with Deer Park Roofing, a company that's provided elite service for homes and businesses since 1996 and leads the industry in professionalism, quality, and responsiveness. Whether your needs are residential or commercial, like the outstanding work on the Cintas Center, the home of Xavier basketball, Deer Park can handle any job and ensure it's done right. Deer Park's motto is protect what's important, and what's important to you is important to Deer Park Roofing. Visit deerparkroofing.com. Stanley, since you're a Southern California guy and you played Arizona, let me ask you, what do you think about the death of the Pac-12?
Sad, man.
Yeah, it's sad because it's something that I participated in. I do feel like there's been some injustices in the NCAA process. I know they didn't treat me too well toward the end of my situation, so I really don't care too much for them, honestly. Yeah. I'll keep it at that.
but I'm going to tell you this, back to the Pac-12, Stanley. Like, look, you were the freshman of the year. You were first.
Yeah, all that stuff. Yeah.
I mean, wait, Gary Payton, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. I mean, Miles Simon, Richard Jefferson. Just keep going up and down the coast of like these great players, football and basketball. And think about it, like this year, there is no Pac-10 or Pac-12. Like it doesn't exist. It's almost hard to comprehend that it folded the way it did.
And knowing it's basically a financial thing, and we truly were the conference of champions. I believed coming up before I got to Arizona and probably a decade prior, you can look at almost every sport, especially if you look at all the sports. We were one of the few conferences that were versatile in what we excelled at, especially in basketball. I thought we were competing with all the blue bloods or whatever they call themselves. You know what I'm saying, stuff like that, and in football as well. We had that thing going as a conference. So all that history, I guess, will just be history now. There'll be no more made in the conference, but hopefully there's something they can do about it in the future. But it was a good situation for a while it was.
Stanley, one thing that I wanted to ask you about, because I think your voice, speaks to a lot of young players. Like I just came from the Peach Jam.
Yeah.
And when I go to the Peach Jam, I think of you because you won the Peach Jam. Your team with Aaron Gordon, the Soldiers, that group was amazing. Your junior year, you won it, and then your senior year, you didn't. But like the Peach Jam, and just kind of watching who you became, and now you get drafted, and it's like if you're talking to these guys like yourself that are going to be in next year's NBA draft, and they're going to be in college for a very brief moment, what is it that you didn't know that you wish you did before you got to the NBA? Like people would try to fill in the blanks. This is what it's going to be like, but you've lived it now, and you did it as the 8th pick, one and done, a young player entering the NBA. What is it that you wish you knew? I guess the way I would say it is that you wish you knew then that you know now.
That's a good question. I had a lot of good people, like yourself around me. I think all the knowledge I had, especially stuff I needed to go forward, I just think things that I guess I would say the things that I've heard is Sam Van Gundy, after my rookie year, he said, when you think about your summer, you think about going into your summer, your priority should start with basketball. Where you live starts with basketball. Yeah. How you eat starts with basketball. How you hold yourself out starts with basketball. You know what I'm saying? And I think young players should think about that. I think these days, you have so many apps and great coaches that you'll know the knowledge, but will you execute is harder to do. And I think the easy way to execute is like, okay, well, I want to live in Southern California. I'm like, where's the closest gym? That's where I should live next to. Where's this? I should do this. When I get my money, how I spend it, it shouldn't be first on some clothes. You should figure out, okay, how do I put it back into my body? How do I do things that are more progressive toward basketball? And that is crazy, and it sounds crazy, but I think the guys that have that do that, they excel quicker. And in the NBA, it's not the 450 best. It's a timing thing at some points in time. So if you don't figure out the timing or you don't get it quick enough, you'll find yourself without a chair. You know what I'm saying? You'll find yourself without a seat. And I think every young player should pay attention to that. It's not always the 450 best players in the world that are in the NBA at a point in time. So how you hold yourself, the things that you do, getting there, the things that you do while you're there will help you out just as much as what you do while you're in the NBA as well, athletically, talent-wise.
Yeah. No, that's that. What you said, that advice though, everything should start with basketball.
Yeah.
That's the reality of, like, when people say this is like dog eat dog and it's like only the strong survive. Like that right there is the mindset of somebody that's trying to stay. No question about it. Because you're right. You're distracted and made to feel that you should be more balanced and do different things and please so many different people, when in reality of it is, if you just take care of that one word, basketball, it's amazing how all those other things just follow.
Yeah.
For sure.
And it's like, so you can do so much. You can get better at so much. There's really nothing you don't have enough time to get better at basketball. So
right. Yeah.
It's just the honest truth.
So Stanley, update right now. You're going to go to the EuroLeague. You got the team and et cetera. Like, when do you leave? And just what's the next thing for you?
So next, I'm going to play for a team called Efes in Turkey. It's in the EuroLeague. They were like right at 500 last year. So I'm very excited about the opportunity. I look forward to challenging myself. I think the last couple of years I've been up and out and in and down between the G League and the NBA. And that's just another step in that process of being the best. So yeah, great. Yeah.
Hey, look, I'm going to tell you, I don't have to tell you, you already know, but the level of play and the style over there, I think you really enjoy. I really do. Number one, I think you'll thrive, and if you utilize that and end up bouncing back here, awesome. But my hope is that you just really enjoy and thrive in being there, because I think you're gonna love that competition in that style, because it's a different style than the NBA. Don't you?
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of college, and Lord knows how bad I wanted to stay a second year in college. So
yeah,
I'm interested in seeing what it's going to look like. What I would say, like a tuned up version of myself. Obviously, a lot better at shooting the ball, a lot better at making decisions. So let's see how this one works out. Yeah.
So he was going to come back for his second year. We're not going to talk about it on this podcast. A couple different things happened, and he ended up making the right decision for himself when the time came. But make no mistake, coaches always say, no, he was going to come back or whatever. We'll just look at him right now. Were you going to come back for that second year?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it would have been a whole different ball game if you were. I also would say this. It would have, I think, taken him to another level as well, because you forget how young Stanley was when he went into the league. I mean, he was just 19 years old, so that's really young. Right now, you're 28.
Yeah.
28 years old. Hard to believe, right?
Yeah, man. It's flowing by so fast. But yeah, I definitely don't want to be younger anymore, though. That shit was hard.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because the question I was going to ask was all about, leaving after 1 year. So I'll leave that one and move on to the next one. But Stanley, I think what was your response when I reached out to you and told you that Sean had a podcast and he wanted you to be a guest? Did you ever think
I didn't know Sean was like actually talking to like that? Like, you know what I'm saying? I didn't know Sean was actually, you know what I'm saying? Sean, what's up, coach? Let's talk about it. Podcast, let's be talking about.
I'm like that. With age comes wisdom, Stanley. I'm just kind-hearted right now. Just kind of, yeah.
No, coach, you're like literally one of the coolest dudes. Obviously, like not a lot of guys are, able to come to the house and like really chit chat with you. And obviously you're, really one of the best conversations I've ever had, you know what I'm saying, for real. So
I appreciate that.
Hopefully you do give guys your time and are just open with guys, because when you are like you were with me, I mean, I don't see how guys don't like you a ton.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So.
Well, I appreciate it, man. I really do. Stanley and I have gone, we went through a lot of different things. The recruiting process, old school, like we talked about, for really 3.5 years, coaching him with a lot at stake, trying to win a national championship, trying to get to the Final Four, getting so close, getting through the whole one and done, watching him become the 8th pick, and just, following, his path that he has. He's for me, one of the most special guys that I've been around, because even though he only played for us for 1 year, it's always felt, because of our track record, both in recruiting and just the relationship, that he's been with us for a lot longer than that, and I that's why these final chapters for you, I think, are going to be your best chapters, because I think you're going to be the most mature, most ready. And I think that when it ends here, basketball wise in your career, this is when you're going to be at your best here, these next 5, 7, 10 years, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so too, Coach. I want to tell a Sean Miller story. My first practice, my first real practice, right? So we have like a whole summer get down, June, and then there's like the Hell Week or whatever that started that, right? So mind you, like in the practices, we're doing like defensive practices and continuity practices. There's not a lot of like layup lines or anything. We're kind of hopping right into it. And then this time, we're doing like a 2 or 3 hour practice 2-a-days. We got a warm up drill, or which I thought was a warm up drill, right? So, I'm like probably like second or third, maybe fourth in line, right? And we're doing Laker drill, basically, or not Laker drill, but a variation of Laker drill. Pass the ball to coach throws it to the head, you go in there, lay it in, you dunk it. So I throw the ball, get it back, dunk it. Throw the ball, get it back, dunk it. Like Sean's already like, because he's not really coaching at first, and he kind of slowly getting into it. But today he's coaching. He's speaking from minute 1 of practice. So the second time, he's now catching the ball, and he throws it, and he watches me like do the same thing. And mind you, I probably took 2 dribbles and I dunked it. So he gets the ball next time, throws the ball up, hits the light, and he just walking around the court. Oh, this is it right here. Wake the up! Wake the up! You're at Arizona. You're at Arizona. Wake up! This is not modern day. I'm like, holy shit.
There was no F's. He's exaggerating. I never
And so now I got TJ on my ass because Sean is already turned up, and I didn't know I didn't know anything. And yeah, we had a hell week after that. Like it was like the whole thing was awesome, but that was like within the first, was it 5 minutes of practice? 5 minutes. It was like, whoa, okay, we're definitely in college now. We're definitely not, because I ain't got yelled at that in practice since I was probably 14, 15 years old. It's probably been 3 or 4 years Yeah,
the thing with Stanley that I always tried to do is hold him accountable and make sure that he never could coast, because he was so physically gifted. And part of it is, I knew what was coming in his future. And I also knew how difficult it is to win the national championship or, go and be a part of the Final Four. And look, he's there as a freshman, and it wasn't like he was our ninth man. I mean, we threw him to the fire. He started, and day one, it was just like, here we go. So anytime that I had an opportunity to like see him coast, I would just be like, nope, no, you're not coast. I'm not going to let you do that. I'm not going to let you coast, because I think that in my mind would always allow him to become the best that he could be,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody was really good about that. That's what was so, the Tyson thing about coming back for the second year. Cause, I felt like right after that Arizona State game that we lost, I finally understood like what it was to really like lock in and win some games. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, and if you don't remember, I remember Bo Barnes. Yeah. When I thought I was right, I thought I did everything right. And he told me like, no 3-pointers, like don't even let him get it off. I'm thinking I can put a contest up and some high school stuff. And he got in my head. Probably the reason why we got the second seed that year. But, all that stuff, it was so many of those things, hard practice, hard moments. But all those moments was why I felt like it would have been, X, Y, and Z to come back and all those things. But yeah, we were really good about that year for sure.
Stanley, my last question for you here before we let you go. For anybody that's listening to this, and Sean kind of alluded to it earlier, but for anybody that's listening to this, maybe a high school recruit or any other player that's listening to this, why do you think Sean Miller has become such a talented coach in developing players to make it to the NBA?
It's pretty easy for me. Actually, in church, my pastor was just talking about extraordinary and ordinary. And Sean is good at everything ordinary and extraordinary, but he's also good at the first part as well. Like he's actually good at coaching, actually good at leading, actually good at making sure that the things that you need to be successful are there for you. People that are around you. Everything that he told me, everything that he says when he's in front of your face when I was 14 was everything that happened when I was 18. And like, I can only, love him and respect him more because he was honest and he was that. And yes, we all make mistakes and everything like that. But at the same time, like, I think that's what makes him different. Not to talk about anybody else, but I know for a fact, like a lot of situations, he's probably, I think I'm the only one actually, outside of the guys that won a championship that year, I'm the only one that everything that my coach told me was true. And, to be honest, like to that starting thing, I didn't start my first exhibition game either. Something happened, X, Y, and Z, and like it could have been something. But at the same time, he was like, Stanley, like this is what you earned. So unless you want to change it, and then all those processes with, if he had let me skip a step at some point in time, I would not be here today where I'm sitting. Like I would not be here today. So that's what I would say. Why guys should continue to go to him, but why he's got to where he's at today. It's just he's special in those things, which a lot of guys struggle with. So
I appreciate it, Stanley.
Yeah,
I appreciate it, man.
Of course, you already know that, though. But of course.
Stanley, we want to thank you very much for taking a few minutes today to join us on the Sean Miller podcast. This was great. Maybe sometime down the line we get you on in person if you're ever here in Cincinnati, or if we're ever on the road, take the podcast on the road. Hopefully we can get you on in person at some point. So Stanley, thank you so much for joining today. This has been a production of the Sean Miller Podcast, 1831 Media Network. And as always, we are presented by Deer Park Roofing and the official payroll sponsor of the Sean Miller Podcast, Payroll Partners. Thanks so much, Stanley. We appreciate it.
This has been the Sean Miller Podcast, presented by Deer Park Roofing, with your hosts, Paul Fritchner and Adam Baum. Join us again soon for another episode with the head coach of the Xavier Musketeers, Sean Miller.
Stop renting your power, own it. TGE Solar makes it easy to purchase solar panels for your home or business so you can take control of your monthly electricity bill and start saving today. They'll help you find the best solar system to meet your needs, and their expert in-house installation team makes the process seamless. They're proud to be based in Cincinnati, family owned and operated by a Xavier alum. Mention this podcast and save $1,000. Visit TGESolar.com to request your free energy evaluation today. The Sean Miller Podcast is proud to partner with Payroll Partners, where you're not just a number. That means providing a best-in-class HR and payroll experience that was built on award-winning technology and live support customer service with a dedicated payroll specialist who's just a phone call away. You shouldn't have to choose between technology and customer service. At Payroll Partners, you get both. Payroll Partners is locally owned and operated by a proud Xavier alum. Visit payrollpartners.net. That's payrollpartners.net.